welcome to the Book Bunch. My name is Sam and it's so great to have you guys here for another video. I am pre-filming today because I'm going away this weekend to Goondiwindi, which is 5.5 hours away, to visit my mother-in-law and go to her house because we haven't been there in a couple of years, and it's going to be a great time, but alas, it falls on a day of filming. So today I'm going to talk about some books that have robots in it. If you specifically like robots, this is a video for you because I've read quite a number over the years and I've picked out the best ones to share with you guys that I think you'd enjoy, because I thought I might try and do a couple of theme videos. Like, I've got one in mind for if you like seafaring in books at all. So yes, we're going to start with robots. So the first book I have to talk to you guys about is Sea of Rust. This book is a secular book that I just happened to pick up and it ended up being 5 out of 5. It was so good. This book is about this robot that wakes up on a like rubbish heap thing, and like she is a discontinued model, and she wakes up and she basically decides that she like needs to go find like parts for herself and try and figure out what's happened and why she's in this rubbish heap. And so she goes off and basically finds out that all of humanity has disappeared, and the only beings left are robots. And there's different kinds of robots. There's like your normal robots that were made by humans, and then there's like these, what's the word? There's like these conglomerates of robots that have all like joined together in these giant masses of like AI beings basically, and they basically consider themselves to be like gods almost. And there's 5 or 6 of them, and basically they either convince or they trap other robots, like the little robots, to like suck out their AI soul and like join this conglomerate and everything, because they and like these bigger conglomerates are all at war with each other and stuff. And yeah, there's this one robot that we follow, and she picks up some other robot friends along the way as she's trying to work out what has happened, and they are trying to stay away from these giant robot conglomerates because they don't want to become one of those, but they are being hunted down by like the conglomerate soldiers. And it's quite good, and there's some crazy twists in there, but it's quite good. Really enjoyed it. I believe I did do a full review like over a year ago on the channel, so if you find it, have a watch of that. But yes, I do highly recommend it. Then there is Lost Bits, which I just read the other day, which is very similar but also very different. So again, we are from the point of view of robots, and they wake up on a trash heap and they have a bunch of memories missing and they don't know why they are there. And our main robot 4, he wakes up and he's like, okay, what is going on? Where are my humans? Where is my family? Because he was a robot that was made to look after children and be part of a family unit and all of that. And he finds a single eyeball that is like, it can talk because it's part of a old companion bot, which is basically like almost like a watch type thing that is a robot that people could wear, or they could attach to things because they're magnetic, so that they had company. And he finds this like partial one who's still functional, and he like attaches himself and they become friends. And they like, the whole story is about this one robot 4 trying to find his family and reunite with his family and find out what's happened. And he meets all these other robots along the way. Some of them are like pure robots and some of them are like mismatches of like a bunch of parts that have just been put together and then given a soul. And yeah, it's super, it's like opposite to Sea of Rust in the fact that like Sea of Rust is like more of a like a thrillery action kind of vibe, whereas and like dystopian kind of vibe, whereas Lost Bits is more of like a cozy friendship journey, if that makes sense. The stakes are relatively high, but not crazy high, and it's more meant to be a feel good story about like family and what makes family a family and loyalty and that kind of thing. Whereas Sea of Rust is not necessarily about that. So it is different, but still good. I did like Sea of Rust better, but that's just me. And then there is Clara and the Sun. Clara and the Sun is about this robot, again, from the perspective of a robot. Her name is Clara. She is again a decommissioned robot, and she is basically looking back on her life at her memories and is like showing the story of her and this little girl that she was um, assigned to. That's the word. Sorry, I'm struggling with my words today. And she, like, it's a really depressing story actually, so just be aware of that. But it basically goes through Clara's own grief about not being needed anymore because her kid, like, she watches her kid grows up and not need her anymore, and how soul crushing that is for a robot whose programming is to look after someone like that. And like, it also talks about the struggles that Clara's little girl went through, because Clara, the girl that she's assigned to, the reason she's assigned to this girl is because the girl has some kind of condition, um, so she can't do normal kid stuff a lot of the time. And yeah, it's rather interesting. A rather interesting story. I don't know if I've really read anything quite like Clara and the Sun. I liked the voice of Clara. Something about reading through the voice of robots I really like, which is why I liked Recorder. That's not actually about robots, so it's not on the list. But the way that Recorder was raised and like brainwashed, basically, her voice is like the way she talks and thinks is very similar to what a robot does. So I liked that because it made me think about all the robot books that I like. But yeah, Clara and the Sun. Then there was Synapse, and Synapse is actually not from the perspective of a robot, but like the second main character or one of the main characters is a robot. So Synapse is about, it's a like detective story basically, that's sci-fi, and it's about this woman who she is a priest or minister, and she is single, but she really wanted to have a baby, so she like went through fertility treatments to have a baby. And the opening scene is her finding out she's had a stillborn because she was like older than the recommended age, and this was in like a time in the future where like it's very unusual for people to have natural births. So the fact that she was doing it at all was a bit of a risk, because like I think almost like their society's forgotten how to look after women in that situation. Um, so it was super high risk, and she ends up losing the baby. And she goes home super depressed, as you would be, and she's like questioning her relationship with God. And she um, comes home and finds her brother, who she's kind of estranged with, has left her an AI. And because like the AI was meant to help her raise the baby and everything. And she doesn't like AI to begin with because their parents were killed by an AI, and yeah, she like holds a grudge against them, and so she like goes to send back this robot, but the brother convinces her, just try it out for a couple of days. If you still don't like him, his name is Jordan, the AI. if you still don't like him, send Jordan back. And she's like, fine, whatever, because she just kind of wants to end the conversation. And so she ends up opening Jordan and like getting him started. And then somehow they get wrapped up into this crime that's happening at this like AI, there's like terrorism happening at this AI facility. And her and Jordan get wrapped up in that. And like they become friends with this detective, and it's like this whole thing. But yeah, it was really interesting because this had the contrast between people who don't like AI, and it also had them having to work together anyway. And yeah, it was just an interesting dynamic between them all. I didn't absolutely love Synapse, like it was just average for me, but I loved the concept, and if you like robots, it's definitely still worth you giving it a go. And then finally on my list is the Eden trilogy, because this one is again very different to the others I have mentioned, but I'm putting it on the list anyway because it is about robots. It's about robot zombies, sort of. It is not Christian, and it's not entirely clean, so I'm just going to put it out there. But it is a favorite from when I was a teenager, and I didn't necessarily care about content warnings and all of that kind of stuff. And I have reread it recently, and it probably doesn't pass my cleanliness list now, but like it wasn't so bad that I can't recommend it to you guys at all, if that makes sense. Just be aware that it's like adult. There's like adult content in it, like swearing and stuff, and some violence, and there's some romance, but like nothing ends up going all the way. So like, just be aware of that if you do want to give it a try. But the Eden trilogy is a story about this girl named Eve, and it's like a dystopian world where there are these zombies basically that have taken over the world, and they are zombies that have been created from people who were given nanites to help, or like organ transplants that had nanites in them to help like heal their bodies and everything. But the nanites ended up getting a mind of their own and taking over these humans' bodies and turning them into robots from the inside out, and turning them all into metal and stuff from the inside out. And it's super crazy. And these robots have this weird life cycle as well. And at a certain point in the life cycle, they basically get this incessant need to infect anybody that don't have the nanites present. And they just have to touch you, like just the briefest touch anywhere on your body will, like skin to skin obviously, will get you infected. And they're like, because they're like these robot things, they end up being like super elite because they can run really fast and jump really high and all of that. And we follow Eve, who is a survivor in this world, and she is part of this little community called Eden, and they live in the middle of nowhere, and they have a little farm, and they're like just trying to live basically. And then this guy walks into their camp, and he claims to know Eve because Eve is missing a lot of her memories from when she was younger, and it like brings back all this past stuff that she didn't know. And it turns out she was tested on as a kid in a lab, and all this crazy stuff. And it's basically about them trying to survive because they find out that these zombies are starting to change behavior and are starting to band together as these giant hordes and like sweep the country to find people. So nowhere is really safe, and Eden gets attacked, and they have to like flee. and they find out that there might be a safe haven in a middle of the city, which like they've established through the in the first book that cities are like super dangerous. It's like the worst place you can be, just because the sheer volume of people means that the sheer volume of zombies that are now there that have taken over the humans is like super high and super risky. And they decide to take the chance to try and find this city and see if they can find this safe haven. And it's a super interesting story, super interesting take on zombies and robots. And if you like that kind of thing, I thought I'd mention it because it's super good. But that's kind of all like the super robot-y books I have for you guys. Like I said, if you like the voice of a robot without it physically being a robot, Recorder and Aberration, the second book, are definitely another option for you guys, which Recorder is my new favorite book. It's tied with Wing Feather Saga, guys, so you need to check it out if you like sci-fi. But yeah, I think I have, apart from Lost Bits, I believe I have reviewed all of these books on the channel. So just go check if you want like a more in-depth review. But yeah, and if you have any questions about any of these books, or if you have any robot book recommendations for me, let me know in the comments below. I would love to know. There might even be a couple that I've read that I haven't mentioned that I'm just completely spacing on right now, but there we go. They're the ones I can think of. And I hope you guys have a great week. I will see you in the next video. I know my last video was meant to be a live stream with a special guest, but they postponed to this Wednesday, so hopefully next video will be the live stream with my special guest, as long as nothing goes wrong. So pray that that happens and that no one is sick. And yeah, I'll see you then. Bye!